Hi, everybody. Good evening. We're going to see your pretty faces tonight. There we go, Rachel. You said you're at work tonight, yeah? Hey, I like the face, Glenn.
Yeah.
Looks like he's never been away, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, we just had Dan join us from AIG. Hiya, Dan. You all right, mate? I believe we've got Barry on the call tonight. He must have finished work early. Have a bit of banter with him about that later. Right, let me pause the music because we don't
know
need
if you
that
can hear me
anymore.
at all, but
Let me come back to share screen. Everybody hear me all right? Awesome. Thumbs up. We love it. Cheers for joining us again. This evening, we've got Daniel from AIG, one of the top providers in my eyes that we work with on the panel. I love their proposition. I like to see him nodding there. He's going to give you, I'm sure, much more motivation to use them for sure. So I just want to start off by saying welcome to everyone. Cheers for your time. Today, what we're working with is real dilemma that a lot of advisors find themselves in is, how do you get more clients? And for me, it's really important to, juggle a number of balls when it comes to working day to day, week to week, to make sure you keep ticking along and you create what I believe is a snowball effect from many different angles to, do what you do best and give advice in regards to protection areas, or of course, regards to mortgages, if it's a mortgage client. But I've mapped out on the screen here, what we can see is, of course, it's all about attracting new clients, hence the magnet. And there's a number of ways in which we can keep ourselves busy. And I'm a big believer in that we're not in the financial services industry, we're in the people industry. And when it comes to working day to day and giving advice day to day, what you need to do is you need to put yourself in certain positions where you get around people and you can use the passion you've got, use the fire in your belly to tell them what you know and what you can do for them. So just a few on the screen there. I know we've got the chat on here as well. If anyone can think of any more ideas to, where you can get clients from, then drop them on the chat and we'll add them in as we're moving along. A little bit of a challenge there. If you can put one on, I appreciate it. But I just want to run through these with you. Referrals and I suppose recommendations you can see on there. There's two that come hand in hand, really. And for me, they're the number one. Now, whenever you're, dealing with a customer and a client, if you are a good person, if you're trustworthy, reliable, and more importantly, you know your stuff and you're knowledgeable and you can do a good job for them, then once you've finished that advice process, why would they not refer you to their brother, the sister, the best friends, the neighbors, the people they socialize with? And without asking, you can see the big word of ask in the middle, without asking the question, they're not just going to step out and turn around and go, do you know what? Would you mind ringing my sister? Or would you mind going and seeing my brother? Or actually got a couple of friends it might be worth speaking to. So it's really important for you to ask. And you ask in a number of scenarios, but for me, with referrals, with recommendations, asking for that, firstly, up front within your sales process is really important. Tee it up from the start and say, I work by means of referrals and recommendations. Now, if I do a good job for you, could you do me a favor and could you pass me 5 people's names and numbers and I can approach them and just, offer them my services? Or you might say 10. You might say 2. It's all about your comfort zone and what you feel is right. But I'm a big believer that if you ask for 10, you'll end up getting 5. If you ask for 5, you might get 1 or 2. And if you ask for 1 or 2, you'll get a yes or no, or you might get 1. So, sometimes it's best to start high and work backwards. Maybe not start with 50, contradict myself there, but you don't want them to be shocked and say, come on, mate, what you want about? But of course, by asking for referrals and recommendations, when you finalize the sale and you've done a good job for a client, they're going to see the value and they're going to say, absolutely. And they're going to pass you the names and numbers. I always remember back in the day when I was training, early 20s. There were an advisor that I was training with, and he had an approach where he had a little black book. And every time he went to see a client face to face, he'd sit down on the sofa, he'd get the black book out, and he'd throw it on the rug or on the carpet in front of the clients. But he wouldn't mention what the book was about. Throughout the sales process, he'd continue giving the advice, not mentioning the book. And then at the end of the sales process, appointment 1, he'd pick the book up and put it back in his bag. He'd come back with a recommendation the following evening or the following week. He'd sit down with the clients. The first thing he'd do is get his book out of his bag. He'd throw it on the rug or the carpet, and he'd continue his recommendation to the clients. Now, he'd close off the sale. He'd do a great job for them. And at the end, he'd ask them, was he happy? Were they happy, sorry, with regards to the service he'd offered? And he said, yes. Now, he'd then bring up, he'd say, you've probably noticed that there's a little black book on the floor. And I bring this to all my clients' appointments. He said, what it is, it's my referral diary. He said, what I do is I ask you for 5 names of friends, family, people you know, who I could possibly do the same job I've done for you and give them the value that you received as well. The little trick of the trade there is getting them, what is that? And they need to be inquisitive to kind of what it is. And he really highlighted the fact that other people give him referrals, so they should as well. So for me, that's number 1. Chat. We've had a couple of more. Work, Glenn, spot on, mate. People you're socializing with within work, you know probably what they're about, the occupations they're doing. We've got a go-to. She put business providers from other out of work circles. Absolutely. Great networking there. Going to my partner's football matches is a great place to talk about income protection, especially when you see injuries. Shannon, good shout. So the likes of, fracture cover that you can add in for like sports teams. And it's all about putting yourself in the various circles that you want to work within. So with regards to, the other areas, for me, what I would say is look at these on the screen and work out, what could be working well for you. Networking events, they're not for everybody, but they're going to put yourself in a position where you're going to be around like-minded people like yourself, people that need referral and recommendations from other business people. And of course, by you looking after them, they'll look after you. So it's building relationships. We've talked about in the bottom left here, introducers. If you can link up with an accountant, for example, an accountant goes through the bank statements. They know exactly what they're paying for. And you could potentially get them policies that are more cost effective. You could even make them more tax efficient if you go into the likes of business protection as well. I've put in the gym. Gym's a fantastic place to be. There's no point in sitting in an office or sitting at home and twiddling your thumbs thinking, where does my next client come from? Go to the gym, go and play golf, go shopping, do something, that gets you out in the real world around people. And then when you bump into someone like the checkout lady at Tesco and she says, how's your day been? You're going to say, it's been really good, thanks. And she's going to say, why? You're going to say, oh, I've helped 2 families today arrange financial protection for themselves. It's what I do for a living. Oh, do you? Okay, well, tell me a little bit more. Get talking, get engaging. I mean, the reason you'll get engaging is because you'll read, you'll learn through these kind of events from Dan tonight in regards to AIG, and you'll pick up USPs where you'll want to tell people about it because you'll realize it's not just life insurance. It's giving people peace of mind. It's giving people financial stability for themselves, for the partners, for the kids, especially. So finding clients is very easy. There's so many people out there. And I challenge every single one of you to walk down the road for 10 minutes tomorrow, walk back to your house and count how many cars go past you with people in. There's people everywhere. And that's all it is. You're not in the financial services industry. You're in the people industry. So there's a few more on there. We've got groups, it could be, mummy groups or father groups, of course, with babies. You've got coffee mornings. They're fantastic. You might get a bit of cake on that one. Probably my favorite, actually. Go back to the top of the list. We've got wills and trustees through trusts. We're going to do a session on that in March where Kaylee's actually going to get involved and do a real strict session on will writing and how you can offer that as a free service to your clients. Will writing is fantastic when it comes to looking at a client's assets and liabilities. And of course, if somebody has a home, they likely have a mortgage. If they've got a mortgage, there's mortgage renewal dates for you there. And if you've got debt, such as mortgages, and they've got children, then naturally they're going to need that protecting. So again, it paints a picture for yourself to kind of work out, whether this client's for you. But for me, I believe 9 out of 10 clients have got a need, whether that is income protection, life insurance, critical illness cover. There's a need out there with a lot of clients. I love it how Glenn says golf course as well. So the thing with a golf course is, going out, getting some fresh air, it's good for your mental health. You might not get it off the person you're on the tee with, but he might know people. So again, it's not always the direct people you're dealing with. It's the circles you put yourself within. And I'd really encourage everyone that from a self-employed and remote perspective, don't work from home day to day. Spend a couple of days a week where you might go and work in the Hilton hotel lobby, or you might go and work at your local gym reception or a nice coffee shop morning. Have 2, 3, 4 hours where people are bumping into you and saying hello, or how you doing, or, how's your day going? And you get to have a chat and really, really network and find out where your clients come from. And then just finally on this, you can see in the middle of the screen, it says ABC equals Z. I'm a big believer that Z being your income is, of course, is why people come to work. ABC is what? Put it in the chat. Someone give me an answer. What's ABC? I'm testing tonight, aren't I? I'm getting you involved. I can see a ghost is getting engaged. That's a little laugh. Anybody got an answer for me? What's ABC? If Z's your income, what's ABC? There's nothing coming in. I'm going to give the answer. Oh, clients. Brilliant, Lizzie. So clients, absolutely it is. You could break it down into appointments. You could break it down into leads. But concentrate on the people, believe in what you do, have a passion for what you do, and the income will follow. It's that easy. So I'm just going to skip the screen. I'm going to talk about, a number of areas that you've really got to, believe in yourself. You've got to be positive in your work, working day to day. You've got to know your shit, man. You know what I mean? Excuse the French, but how can you say to be a specialist or an advisor if you don't know your stuff? So you need to allocate time aside for that. And that's regards to, little efforts repeated daily bring big results. So, if you were to spend 15 minutes every morning before you get going, working on your product provider literature or your lender literature, by the end of the month, how much extra are you going to know for that little effort? You've got to believe in yourself. That's a big one as well. Set a plan. And when the plan's out there, you've got your personal goals. That's up to you where them limits are as well. You've got to embrace the unknown. You've got to be grateful in life. You know what I mean? I once did a little test where I got up. I had a new notepad that I've received from one of the providers. And every morning I wrote down 5 things I was grateful for. And what a way to start the day. So I'd encourage you to do that. Do it for a month and you'll start to repeat and you'll start to realize that you're so grateful for what you've got. And it really just sets your motivation for the day as well. I always say choose to be a superstar. Not everyone wants to be a superstar, but I believe many of you on the call are striving, to do very well in this industry. And to do that, as it says on the left, you've got to take risks. You've got to tell people what you're going to do, because what that does, it gives you accountability. So example, if you want to hit 501 club in Primus, on the 1st of the month, put it on the group chat today. I'm going to do 501 next month. Or email everyone and say, I'm going to do 501. Put it on the Facebook group or the advisor chat. Or whatever it is, have an accountability buddy, it says it there. And do one thing every day that scares you. So whether that's picking up the phone, whether that's making that call, step outside your comfort zone, it's really important. So, your comfort zone's there. As you can see, stay in your comfort zone. You've got low risk, low reward. You're safe, you're in control. How good do you feel like you can do if you sit within that comfort zone? You've got the fear zone. So, you're naturally, as inexperienced advisors, some of you, you're going to have that low self-confidence. So how do you improve the confidence? Step outside your comfort zone, have a go at it. Because you'll either win or you'll learn. You won't lose, you'll learn by the experience. And then you've got the learning zone itself. You're acquiring new skills. You can do that on the job with this job, but you're very lucky. Problem solve, for me, that's the joy. It's fitting the needs of the client. You face challenges by getting on with it and having a go at it and having your goals. And then of course the growth zone, live your dreams, find a purpose, set new goals all the time, little goals and big goals, and then conquer your objectives. Have a go at it. Listen, you can see on the right hand side there, you've got two options. You can either tick along and you'll fall asleep. You can be interested, motivated, excited. And if you're really fired up and you get out of bed and think, I'm going to achieve this today, I'm going to achieve this week and this month, and you put your back against the wall, you'll be very successful. So that's my intro for you today. I'm going to pass you over to Dan. Sorry, Dan, I went 3 minutes over there, mate. Do you want to unmute yourself, Dan?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm not used to Zoom, so apologies.
How are you, mate? Thanks for your time today.
That's all right, no worries. That was a very good introduction.
Well, we're cracking the whip today. It's all about clients and getting on with it. It's not always that deep.
Well, I feel very fired up now. 7 o'clock. Ready to go and play football after this. So
amazing.
Yeah, feeling good.
Good on you.
Well, yeah, appreciate you. Go on.
No, I'm going to say I believe it's dry outside. Wind's calmed down, so it should be a good night for football, eh?
Yeah, there was like golf ball sized hailstones earlier, so I was expecting something to come through the window. Yeah, hailstones instead of some sort of like missile from Russia be preferable. But yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me on. Obviously, it's a bit of a session just to give you guys, I suppose, a bit of an insight or refresher for those that you are a bit more familiar with us. Obviously, you opened up, Mark, that obviously you're a big supporter of AIG.
Absolutely.
So hopefully after this, there'll be more than just yourself, and we'll get some more support from the other guys as well, which would be good.
Just to let you know as well, Dan, my plan after your session tonight is to then show all the guys on the call the AIG platform, how we build multi-plans, and really go into depth with, how you can tailor the policies and make them bespoke to the clients. So I think it'll lead really well on from, the presentation you're going to do. So no, once again, thanks for your time, and I'll mute myself and I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. And just on that, although I wouldn't necessarily be able to do it today, and I won't be around for another month. I spoke to you earlier on today. I'll be back on a jury service for another 4 weeks after 2 weeks already. So that's fun. I'm always happy to do, if anyone wants like a system demo or something. Obviously, appreciate you're going to do that today, but if anyone wants something else at a later date or a refresher, I'm more than happy to support with that as well. Yeah, for today, I thought I'd start off really giving you a bit of an intro in terms of actually doing business with us. Obviously, it's all well and good having good products and propositions and stuff, but if we're not able to get the business on risk, then it doesn't really help anyone, you, the client, us. It doesn't really benefit any of us. So in terms of processing business with us, you probably would have been annoyed with the various different people and companies that you have to deal with over COVID and the delays and the COVID excuses that are still pretty much bounding about. I still get emails from my solicitor because I'm buying a place at the moment, and they're saying that COVID is causing delays and stuff like that, which is quite frustrating when we're 2 years on. But thankfully, we're pretty much back to normal in terms of servicing. So from an admin, underwriting point of view and stuff like that, all our SLAs are back to what they were sort of pre the end of the world. Which is good. So you can hopefully get that business on risk as quickly as possible. I don't know how much you guys are using us on a day-to-day basis when it comes to your protection, but we've developed our application journey and our underwriting philosophy to try and provide decisions as quickly as possible. So to give you a bit of a background or on STP, straight through processing. So when you input a client's information, hit that submit button, how often are you getting a decision there and then? And how often is it referring for evidence and stuff like that? It's about 83% of cases that you submit with AIG will get a decision there and then. And to put that into perspective, industry average is less than 40%. So I think it's about 38-ish% across the board that you'll get a decision straight away off the back of an application. Whereas with us, we're around about 83%. So obviously the benefit of that is you can get your cases underwritten quicker, let your client know that they've got their premium. This is what their premium is going to be. You can put it on risk as and when it's relevant, and you're not having to wait sort of 20 million years to get something back from GP surgeries, waiting for nurse medicals and stuff like that to be arranged. Although that's pretty much back to normal now in terms of availability, obviously it still adds a delay to the process of getting their business on risk. So that's obviously a good thing. You get the business on risk quicker, you get your commission quicker, and clients get the cover that they need much quicker. So everyone's a winner from that point of view. GP reports, probably the bane of everyone's life when it comes to protection. I think that's fair to say. I don't think anyone would probably disagree with that statement.
Right.
And in terms of that, we avoid writing to them wherever possible. So it's about 4.4% of cases will we ever actually write out for a GP report. And again, this is just towards our philosophy of trying to get business on the books as quickly as possible. So one thing, we'll never request a GP report just because your client's a certain age or because you've applied for a certain amount of cover. That won't trigger a GP report. With some insurers, you might find that as soon as you hit a certain sum assured, say £1 million worth of cover, regardless of what health disclosures have been made by the client, it's going to trigger a report from the surgery. That doesn't benefit anyone. If clients in a good, clean bill of health, and that's what you've put in the application, we take that in good faith, and we're not going to just write out for a GP report and wait 6-8 weeks, even longer in some cases. I've had cases where people have threatened surgeries with court action and stuff like that because they've taken over a year to come back. So yeah, we'll try and avoid them wherever possible. So again, that's a good way of getting the business again on risk as quickly as possible. And this whole system and the whole journey is all online and signature free as well. So direct debits, medical consent forms, and trusts. You can do all of that all online as part of the application journey. So obviously Mark was talking about how do you generate referrals and things like that. Trust is a brilliant way of doing that. Doesn't cost you anything. You're adding value to the advice that you're giving, putting the policies in trust, making sure that you're ring-fencing their protection. If it pays out, it's not going to go to the tax man or anything like that. So you're adding value from that point of view, but also it's a great way of generating referrals. Ask for the contact details of their trustees, maybe beneficiaries if they're of an age where you think protection is going to be relevant for them. It's a brilliant way of asking for referrals from that as well. And as I say, it doesn't cost you anything. So you're getting referrals and you're adding value to the advice you're given. So trust is really brilliant, and I'd recommend putting your plans in trust wherever you can. So that's from a processing point of view. In terms of our actual proposition, there's a few things that we've got. So first of all, and this is probably our most popular product, I would say, and I don't know, anyone can come off mute and shout out if they've seen it or recommended it already, is our Instant Life product. Maybe Mark, if you're probably our most frequent writer, is that something that you've recommended or
To be
seen
honest with
before?
you, it's not something we've used. We're aware of it, probably because we don't know a lot about it. So it's probably a good one to go through that, please.
Yeah. So as I said, it's probably our most popular product, and there is a few reasons as to why. Firstly, and hopefully you'll see that it'll be demonstrated when you're doing your quotes, it's very competitively priced. And the reason that we're able to price it better than, say, our standard term insurance plan is because, as the name sort of suggests, it gives an instant decision in 100% of cases. So although we're very good at giving decisions in a lot of our cases across the board, instant, the product is designed to give an immediate decision in every single case. So there's no medical evidence ever required. And that's why we're able to price it as we do. We think a GP report probably costs us about 150 quid a pop. Medicals, they're probably about 100 quid a pop as well. So the fact that we're not having to pay for those, we can just push that cost saving onto the client and make it as competitively priced as we do. Couple of things to make sure that you are seeing it quote. It doesn't come with waiver of premium. So if, and from experience, some of the portals, they will automatically default to include waiver. Sometimes it's not like something that you have to opt into, it's something you have to opt out of. So just bear that in mind, check your portal next time you're doing a quote. and that's not just to see our product, although it's obviously beneficial for me. If you do see it, you might see other providers quoting products that you may not necessarily see all the time as well. And that was probably the same in the when you're quoting for kick as well. If you include TPD, that might prevent other products from quoting too. So just worth bearing that in mind. But as I say, competitively priced, no medical evidence ever required. The application journey as well is shorter. So to make things more efficient for you, you want to move on to your next client, move on to your next mortgage, protection case, whatever it might be. You can do the application with Instant in less than 10 minutes. So it's very sort of quick and efficient from that point of view. And with this particular product as well, you can send a link to your own client for them to do their own application. So not everyone likes that. Not everyone can trust their client to do their application in a timely manner. It might involve you having to chase them up. But if you have got a client and they're inclined to doing it themselves, it could be that they've even got some health disclosures that they're not necessarily too comfortable with talking to you about. It gives you that opportunity for them to make it a bit more discreet for them to do, and things like that as well. So it just gives you that flexibility. You still do the initial quote, and then it's at that point you do the application yourself. Only takes less than 10 minutes, so it's quite quick anyway. Or you send a link to your client for them to do it. So it just gives you that option, and you're still updated as well.
Can I ask you a quick question on that, mate? So when you send the link to the client, how do they complete the application? Is it via a computer desktop style link where it opens a web browser? Could they do it on the mobile?
They could do it on their mobile, yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so they can do it on there, yeah. So you send it, they'll get an email, have a link. Obviously, there'll be a bit of information they have to put, like date of birth, to make sure it's them. And then they just go through the application. They'd see the same application that you would, so it's not different or anything. The journey itself is the same. And then once they do it, you're obviously notified of what's happened, and things like that. You don't get less commission or anything like that either by passing it off. So yeah, it's just a good option to have, really.
Thank you.
And also, you're not sacrificing in terms of quality by going for an instant product. You still get all the bells and whistles like Smart Health, which is our value-added service as well. So the only thing that you don't really get is the waiver of premium with instant. Other than that, it's pretty much the same as other life products that you'll be able to quote for. Any questions on any of that at all? No? Perfect. And just to bear in mind, we did change it at some point last year. I think it was towards the back end of last year. So previously it was limited up to the age of 70. There's only up to £600,000 worth of cover, whereas that's now increased. We take it up to the age of 90. You can have over £700,000 worth of cover and stuff. So it's available to much more clients as well now, which is obviously a good thing. So yeah, as I said, really, really good product. Next thing I wanted to touch upon is critical illness cover. So we've always had a big push in this particular space. Our old philosophy has always been to sort of provide the best of the best in the market, sort of Rolls-Royce product. And we weren't necessarily always able to cater to those clients that are a bit more budget focused. So if you did have a client and they wanted the best cover, great, you could cater to those. AIG had the best policy in the market. But for those that were a bit more budget focused, there wasn't really many options with us unless you wanted to go for like a key 3 product, which not necessarily everyone will particularly like. Whereas now we've got a sort of core policy, and then you've got an enhanced policy, so you can sort of tailor it a bit more. I'm always of the position that you should, it's quite an old sales thing, but sort of ski downhill and start off with the best products that you possibly can. Whether in your opinion that's ours, hopefully that would be the case, but it might be that your best product in your mind is someone else. I always think you should start off at the top and then work your way down to what your client's actually able to afford. If you're only selling on price, there's nothing whatsoever stopping your client just jumping on Money Supermarket and doing it themselves. If they've only bought into price, then they can get it cheaper by going online and doing it themselves. That's not necessarily a client, that's just a transactional thing to me. So I'd always recommend, if you're giving advice, that's your job as an advisor, sort of working your way down from higher quality products and then sort of tailoring it to what your client's actually able to afford, maybe even reducing the amount of cover, but giving less cover of a better product, if that makes sense. So that's things that other advisors that I deal with within Primus do as well. So it just means that you've got the core policy for those that are more budget focused, and you've got enhanced. And then you've obviously got the important part of children's cover as well, which you can add to the core or to the enhanced. A core policy covers the equivalent of over 45 conditions. So the majority of those will qualify for your full payouts. And then there's 2 additional conditions, so low-grade breast and prostate cancer. And then our enhanced cover covers the equivalent of over 95 conditions. So much more comprehensive, a lot more conditions that will qualify for a full payout, and a lot more conditions as well that will qualify for those additional payments. And the actual amounts that we'll pay for those additional payments under the enhanced is higher as well. So under the core for additional, it's 25% up to 25,000. Under our enhanced policy, it's 100% up to 35,000. So they get more payouts as a result of that. And they also get pregnancy cover with our enhanced cover as well. So that's beneficial. So that can cover pregnancy complications, things like eclampsia, ectopic pregnancies and things like that. So if there are those types of complications, perhaps they need to take a little bit of time off work for whatever reason to recover from those conditions, that £5,000 payout that we would make can help alleviate some of those financial worries that might come into play. So cover the equivalent of over 45 for core, equivalent of over 95 for the enhanced, and obviously higher payment levels as well with the enhanced. Obviously within those additional conditions under enhanced, there are a lot more specified less advanced cancer sites. So not just your low-grade breast and prostate cancer, there are other specified sites within that as well. But the thing I like myself about a particular definition is our catch-all definition for less advanced cancers. So yes, there will be certain specified sites, things like esophageal cancer and stuff like that. But that catch-all definition means that if your client is diagnosed with any other type of less advanced cancer, that definition alone will sweep it up. So it means that your client basically can claim for any type of less advanced cancer because of that definition. You think cancer equates to about 60% of claims. You want to make sure that you've got the best possible cancer coverage that you can. And obviously with medical advances and stuff like that nowadays, a lot of the time it's been sort of diagnosed and detected a lot earlier, where people aren't necessarily as often having to have chemotherapy, radiotherapy, but it might still need surgery to remove that tumor. That's where those less advanced cancer definitions can kick in. So that's a really important part of the contract. We've then also got our children's cover. So if you're dealing with clients, whether they have children now or maybe thinking of starting a family in the future, our children's cover is really flexible. You can add and remove our children's cover to the core or to the enhanced whenever you want, as many times as you want. So if you've got a young couple perhaps, don't have children now, they don't have to pay for the child's cover now. They can just add it onto their policy at a later date. Likewise, you might have some older clients. They do have children now. We cover the children up to the age of 22. As they approach that age, they might then think about removing the children's cover when they're not going to be able to claim on it. And obviously they'll save themselves a few quid as a result of that. So it's flexible from that point of view. You pay the one amount for the children's cover. So it's one additional extra payment a month. And that will cover as many children as your client has. So if we use what would she be? She'd be my great nan, I guess. Large Irish family. She had 14 children, so my nan is one of 14. If she was to take out a AIG enhanced cover, say, or a core policy and included children's cover, all 14 of her children would be covered, and each of them would be covered for 50 grand each. So you pay the one additional amount, and it will cover as many children as your client has, and each child will be covered for 50 grand. So that's the beauty of our children's cover as well. We don't pay out a percentage of what the adult's covered for. The child is covered for 50 grand. So even if you had the minimum sum assured with us, which is 10k, the child would still be covered for 50k. So it's high payment levels. And the reason for that, just to give you again a bit of a background, in the time that I've been here, roughly 6 or 7 years, children's claims have been our second biggest cause of claim on more than one occasion. So that means we've had more children's claims than we have had for things like heart attack and stroke. which are two of the big three that most people would associate as biggest cause of claim, which traditionally they are. So it does show you that there is a real need to include children's cover, or at least consider having that on your policy. And the beauty now compared to our old contract is our old contract, it was always included. I guess from a point of view of simplicity, that might be good, but it meant that people who didn't have children were technically paying for something that they weren't ever going to claim upon or need. So now you have that flexibility, higher payment levels, and we cover the equivalent of over 75 conditions as well for our children's cover. And that's all hand-picked conditions that have been claimed upon within the industry. We've moved away from trying to play a numbers game. I'm sure all of you will agree you're probably getting hit from 20 different ways of different providers telling you about their kick updates and stuff like that. There was a point where AIG would cover 100 conditions. Next week, blah, 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 would be covering 101. Next week, it would be 102 and stuff like that. So we tried to move away from just trying to play any sort of numbers game. So technically, we cover less child conditions than we did before, but we were covering things like prostate cancer for children, which just don't happen and had never been claimed upon before. So the conditions that we cover are actually relevant to child claims. So that's a good thing as well. A couple of other things. We can double our payment for child's cover if best treatment's only available abroad for the child. So you could potentially be looking at £100,000 payout, which is obviously very good. And also, if you are, say you've got a couple and they both have individual critical illness covers and they both choose to include children's cover on their plans, they can both claim for one child. So you could potentially be getting £100,000 payout in those types of scenarios. And obviously, if treatment's only available abroad, that could be doubled further. So you could potentially be looking at a £200,000 payout. So yeah, we tried to make our children's cover very comprehensive and very quality driven. And the children's cover is the same whether you add it to the core or the enhanced. Any questions on any of that at all? And I've rattled on for a little while there. No? Perfect.
All listeners, Dan. That's what it is.
And the last thing with our kit cover that I wanted to cover is the philosophy that we've gone down of grouping conditions together. You may or may not have picked up on the fact that I said we cover the equivalent of, and not just said we cover 45 conditions, we cover 95 conditions, because what we've done is we've grouped a certain number of conditions or a minimum number of conditions together. So the headings of those, neurological disorders, reduced heart function, surgery to the heart, and surgery to the skull. So if your client has any of those types of conditions, regardless of what the name of that condition is within those headings, it could be anything. So any type of neurological disorder, your client can claim on with us. If they have any reason that they have to have surgery to the heart, they can claim with us. We're not limiting ourselves to just a fixed name of condition, a fixed definition. If your client gets any type of neurological disorder, obviously the common ones are going to be your Alzheimer's, your motor neuron disease and stuff like that, but all the definitions finish with plus any other. So any other type of neurological disorder, any other type of cardiac condition, those definitions will cover it. The beauty of that is, said we're not just restricting ourselves to, if you get one of 80 conditions, great, you'll be able to claim. If you get something that's very similar to something named, but the consultant puts down a slightly different name of condition, you wouldn't be able to claim. Whereas with us, because we're looking at the impact of that condition rather than just the name of the condition, we'll be able to pay. Obviously, that's better outcomes for clients. If we're paying more claims, then that's a win for everyone involved. Us as an insurer, obviously, we want to pay claims, despite what maybe the public will necessarily think of insurers. Obviously, that's our job to try and change that. Yourselves as advisors, you want to make sure that the policies that you're recommending are paying out wherever possible. This will help us to do that. And ultimately, clients want their policies to pay out. Technically, everyone wants their insurance policies to be a complete waste of money and never use them. But if when it does come to using them, they want to make sure that they have the best possible broad coverage. And this grouping philosophy has allowed us to do that. So I can give you an example of how that could work. Motor neuron disease, pretty common condition, probably wouldn't go far wrong if you were to say that that's covered under 99% of CI policies in the market. If you were to get that with most insurers, they're going to be able to pay a claim, and that's obviously a positive. There is a condition called Friedreich's ataxia. Now, in over a year of us having this type of philosophy, only one advisor has ever known what that condition is, and he said that his, I think it was a friend of his wife, I think he used the term that they were part of an inbred family. So I'm not sure how politically correct that is for me to be saying that. They're his words, not mine, and that's why they ended up with that condition. But Friedreich's ataxia is very similar to motor neuron disease. If you were to Google the symptoms, you'd see that the impact it has on your client is very similar. Now, most insurers, as we said, will cover motor neuron disease, but they probably won't cover Friedreich's ataxia because it's a lesser known, less common condition, perhaps. Whereas with us, because we're looking at the impact, and because we know that the impact of those two conditions is very similar, we would be able to pay a claim. So that's just a bit of an example as where this type of philosophy will benefit clients. And it's one of the things that when I'm speaking to advisors, people that are recommending this contract, often to their advisors, that's the one thing that they tend to push to their clients quite often, that as well as the cancer coverage. So just bear that in mind. Obviously, this is one of the key things and key USPs that advisors that I'm dealing with at the moment will pick out and explain to their clients. With AIG, you're going to benefit from this, this, and this. This is why I'm recommending this policy. Yes, it might be XYZ more expensive, perhaps. Certainly, if you're looking at our enhanced cover, which it is more expensive. I'm not just going to sit here and lie to you because you can just do a quote now, and you'd leave me with a tomato face telling me that, Dan, you're £5 more expensive than whoever else. But yes, we're happy with the pricing because we're offering the best contract that we possibly can, and it is going to come at an additional cost. Yeah, that's one of the big things with our plan, and I think you'll probably see other insurers maybe following suit with this type of philosophy as well. Any questions on what I've just gone over? Anything about our kick at all that you wanted to ask? Good, bad thing, feedback that you may have about it? Anyone that you're perhaps using more than others when it comes to recommending kick?
Point to make on that, Dan, just a quick one. You're talking
Yep.
about the group philosophy based on impact. You know, for me, that's really unique with AIG compared to the panel of providers. And you talked about cost and AIG, you know, it could be more expensive than other providers. You know, I'm a big believer that you shouldn't ever ask a client for a budget. You should meet the need of the client. And you mentioned it, didn't you? You said start with the best. And as much as you tailor an AIG policy, including all the enhancements that start at the top, again, start with the top provider. And again, I believe AIG are definitely up there, if not the best. And due to the reason of the impact, but we've had many clients over the years say, you know, what conditions am I covered for? Did he really pay out these policies? You have to really be specific on the claim, etc. Well, this is a valid reason to express the difference with AIG when you're comparing it to, I won't name any names, but alternative providers, because you're getting, I suppose the word is quality, aren't you? And when it comes to, you know, protecting families and giving them what's called a security plan in protection, you know, I've always said you wouldn't want to jump out of a plane with a cheap parachute. You know what I mean? You want quality at the end of the day, and you know, that's what, for me, the impact, the group philosophy on the conditions is really good with AIG.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously it's good that obviously you've said it, and whether you take any stock of what other industry spokespeople, if you want to call them that, say about it, but obviously well-recognized people, Alan Lakey and stuff like that, CI expert, they can't sort of talk highly enough of having this type of philosophy and want other insurers to adopt a similar type of philosophy as well. So that shows you how it's perceived and viewed in the market too. So yeah, I do think it's a really good thing. And at the end of the day, if we can pay more claims, then as I said at the start, that's what we're here to do and what we want to do. So yeah, good that you like that, and hopefully it's something that you will take forward when you guys are having your conversations about our kick plans. Last thing I wanted to touch upon, and now I'll give you the opportunity to ask any questions if you have any, is around smart health. So I don't know whether you guys obviously the contract itself is obviously very important, but do you put much stock or weight into your conversations about the sort of value-added benefits that come with protection plans? Is that something that you tend to focus on? Do you use it to maybe have an opportunity to have follow-up appointments a couple of weeks after you've recommended and stuff like that to talk about that type of stuff? Where does that tend to fit into your conversations, if at all? Start picking on people. Mark?
I think we should go to Rachel on this one. Rachel's always quiet on the chats. Oh, Rachel.
Don't blame me, Rachel.
You have to unmute
The
yourself.
old, yeah, the old mute excuse. That's, I rate that. That's good.
Right. Hello.
Can
Can
hear
you
you.
give us
Yeah.
a question again, Dan?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say, sort of, when it comes to sort of giving your protection advice, do you tend to put much stock or spend much time talking about sort of benefits that they get aside from just their protection at all?
I will do. Like if I'm if I was in a situation with a client,
Yeah.
and I was doing what, like you said, the ski slope.
Yeah.
I would definitely add that into the end, but I would probably use that as a follow-up appointment, just to keep in the loop with them. Yeah, and it's another topic to talk about, so then it's another topic they can go and talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's
That's what I
it's a good
do.
way of, yeah, it's a good way of doing it. Some people, they'll bring it up in their first appointments and stuff like that, obviously when they're talking specifically about protection. Others, as I said, will use it as an opportunity. They've done their policy, it's gone on risk, and then a couple of weeks later, how's everything going? If you've received your policy documents, just to reiterate, you get all these wonderful benefits as well of your protection. Obviously, at the end of the day, the protection is the important part, but having this type of stuff does add a lot of value to what you're recommending as well. And it also helps, again, if one provider's a little bit maybe more expensive than another, the value added service can help justify why you'd recommend one over another because of the bells and whistles that you get. So with our smart health service, we've done a little bit of research, and people said that they'd be willing to spend over 500 quid a year just for smart health on its own. So that shows you the stock that clients themselves actually put in having access to this type of stuff. And the beauty of smart health is it comes free with all of our policies. So every single AIG policy that you recommend, it could be a really small life cover, could be a large business protection plan that you recommend, doesn't matter. Every single client will have access to smart health, as will their immediate families as well. So not just the person covered, but husband, wife, children, they can all use the different services as well. And where it comes into its own is that you can use all the different services as much as you like. There's no restriction. You don't have like a certain amount of appointments a year or per quarter or per half year or whatever. You can use all the different services as much as you like, whenever you like, 24/7. So it's really good from that point of view as well. So you're not going to have to sort of opt into including it into your recommendation or anything like that. You're not going to have to try and get your client to buy into it and pay a bit extra. It's just automatically there. So essentially off the rip, you're already adding basically like 50 quid a month to what you're selling to a client. And if you see things like Push Doctor getting advertised on TV, I think one appointment of that alone is like 50 quid. So the fact that you're getting GP appointments through Smart Health at no additional cost, again, is really invaluable. So there are 6 services included within Smart Health. So the one that I just mentioned there, 24/7 access to a UK-based GP. So it is like a virtual appointment. So over the phone, over FaceTime, whichever is most suitable. And you will be speaking to a UK-based GP, and you'd use them as you would your own GP. They can write prescriptions, they can send for referrals and stuff like that. So they are basically your own GP. Just that you can book it in at a time that's convenient to you. You don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn and spend an hour on the phone trying to get through to someone to be told that all the appointments have gone. you can just book it in as and when it's convenient for you, and you get a 30-minute time slot as well. So no time pressure for your client that they've got to be in and out within 5 minutes, which sometimes you might feel like when you jot down to your own GP. So really good from that point of view. Mental health support. So I heard Mark mention about the importance of mental health, things about getting out of the house and all that type of stuff. Obviously, the provisions in the UK, as great as the NHS are, sometimes people can actually be left waiting up to 2 years to get the mental health support that they need. Whereas with us, your client will be able to book in appointments with a qualified psychologist, counsellor, whoever the most appropriate person is for your client, and they'll get sessions with them to hopefully improve their mental health. I think over 75% of people who contact and use Smart Health for the mental health services, over 75% will go from severe to feeling near normal, if that's the correct terminology. So within 4 appointments of that. So it does show the value and how good the actual services that people will sort of better their mental health once they've had these sessions. And obviously that's coming from a qualified person. This isn't just like a printout that they email to your client to say, do this, that, and the other, go out for a 10-minute walk. They'll actually understand, and they can even send for referrals as well if they need other specialist support. So again, really, really good service. Best Doctors as well is included. So that's a expert second medical opinion service. And as that's the name suggests, that comes from the best doctors who could be based absolutely anywhere in the world. So if your client's diagnosed with a condition, it could even be a pre-existing condition that they had before the policy, contact Best Doctors. They'll obtain your client's medical records, send it out to that specialist who could be based, as I said, anywhere in the world, and they'll come back with a second opinion on diagnosis and also treatment change. And these aren't just us telling you that these are the best doctors. The largest medical survey is completed every so often, and various different specialists around the world will vote for who they think is the best specialist in that particular field. So these are peer nominated specialists, and around about a third of people, as I said, will have a diagnosis or treatment change as a result of getting feedback from best doctors. So again, that shows you the value in having access to a second opinion. This isn't any sort of like corporate speak. This is actual real life scenario. It just so happened that it's our director. She had a heart attack. So our sales director had a heart attack. Wanted to find out why and stuff. She ended up, obviously she had all of her tests and stuff done in the UK, but she ended up contacting Best Doctors knowing that she got that as an AIG employee. And they found that she had something called elevated lipoprotein A. So there's just like build-up of loads of stuff in her arteries that eventually triggered her to have a heart attack. They sent out her records to a clinic in, I think it was Texas. They'd done loads of tests and they found out that she had this elevated lipoprotein A. When she had all her tests in the UK, it was never looked at. Best Doctors paid for her to have additional tests. They paid for her family, all of her family, including uncles and stuff, to have tests as well to check whether they would have or inherited this lipoprotein thing. And it turns out all of our children are now on medication for the rest of their lives because they were found with the particular gene. Her uncle, they said, was about 2 weeks away from having a heart attack himself. Newborn baby was found with having this elevated lipoprotein gene as well. So they'll be on medication when they're appropriate age. And that's all as a result of her contacting Best Doctors and getting a second opinion. So again, that's not just because she's an AIG employee and it's not a made up story or anything like that. There's videos that you can watch on her website and she explains her story and stuff. So that shows you the value in having access to that second opinion. And that quite literally saved her family's life for a lot of people. So yeah, really, really good service and definitely something you'd want to talk about with your clients, that they get access to that type of stuff. And then there are other health and wellbeing tools as well. So you get free health checks with Smarter Health, and you also get bespoke workout programs and bespoke nutritional guidance through Smart Health as well. So again, that comes from qualified nutritionists, sports coaches, sports scientists. So if your client wanted to just shift a bit of weight, I'm still trying to shift my Christmas weight, to be honest with you, so I need to use it. Really good. They can create a 4-8 week training program for your client. It might even be that they're training for a particular event. Now, you said about being inspired and stuff like that, Mark. I thought I was inspired before COVID hit. I signed up to do London to Brighton, run that. That's to run 100k. Thankfully, COVID hit and I didn't have to do it. But I did actually use Smart Health, and I used the training programs instead of trying to find anything online and make sure it's actually good advice that I was getting. And again, this isn't just me trying to give you any corporate speak because it's AIG stuff, but the actual training programs are really good, better than anything I could find online, better than anything that I can find on YouTube. If I went on YouTube, I was just told to go and buy some herbal tea and use their discount code to get some new trainers. Whereas with this is coming from qualified people giving you the best advice that you possibly can get. So really, really good.
No COVID's moving on. When you're booking it back in, this 100k run then?
I don't really want you to put me on the spot like that, Mark. I will do it. I want to do it. Mainly for charity, to be honest with you. I think it's a good thing. Although my sister done it, and I think it's about 6 years ago, and this is no word of a lie, her feet are still in bits.
Wow.
So yeah, it's pretty tough to run 100k. I know people like cycling and stuff like that, so I might just end up getting on the bike. But yeah, it's going to be tough. But I definitely will do it. But yeah, as I said, yeah, really good service. You get access to all 6 of those services. As I said, doesn't cost any extra. You can use all of them as much as you like. Comes with every AIG policy, and again, it adds that real value to those to that bit of advice that you're giving to your client. And I think with everything nowadays, people want more for their money. When you buy your phone contract, minutes, texts, that all takes care of itself. I want to know whether I'm getting Spotify for a year or 2. I want to know whether I'm getting Sky Go, Now TV and stuff like that. The way people buy things now, they want more for their money. And this hopefully helps create that within the protection space as well. So I think it's good that the different providers innovate in their own ways, obviously, but obviously add value to the protection plans that we offer. That's as much as I specifically wanted to cover. So if anyone's got any questions, any feedback, things that they see already about AIG, don't like, I'm more than happy to see where I can support.
I'd like to just ask the team, sorry to keep chirping up, but if it was to come to Lizzie, for example, Lizzie, you've just been listening to Dan there. What stood out for you from what Dan went through? I love picking on people.
I won't be offended if you say nothing. Well, it will be a little bit, but
other than the 100k run, which sounds mental. Not my idea of fun. I think it's just the covers and the extra bits that you're getting with it. I think when we were talking earlier, I was surprised that some of the protection offers more than just protection. Then you get the added benefits of the trainers and the access to extra bits that actually clients will love.
Absolutely.
And help you sell the product.
Yeah, good answer. I bet yourself a go, sir.
Yeah, I think when we've done last week the quiz, there was something else. Sorry, I'm deviating. I made loads of notes, but the one other thing which really stood out, and since I'm a mum, Winston's wish.
Yeah.
I think probably the guys who have got children, you get really emotional, especially mums do get really emotional, even if they just look at their children. And I think it's a great initiative. And I hope I will echo it once I start working, that sometimes it's not the money side, it's the quality of the product. And that's why I asked, but probably Mark, you haven't seen it. How do we go on about when I want income protection from AIG for myself and my husband, because we are going to go both go self-employed. This is a scary time for both of us because we won't have any more the protection of our employer where we are ruling our own drums. So how do I go on? I can't do my own protection. I have to go to you or to whoever, someone else has to do it. How do we go? And do we get the discount also?
I love it. So
Yeah.
the answer to that very quick answer is you can do it yourself. And of
Oh,
course,
I can do it, yeah.
yeah. And by doing it yourself, of course, you get paid for doing it. So the discount comes from that.
Oh,
But
I'm
no,
with you, yeah.
definitely encourage AIG on that front. You know, as you meant, as Dan's mentioned, you know, you'll get the smart health and great policy. So we can have a look at that for you and help with that.
All right, okay, beautiful. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Good points on Winston's wish as well, weren't it, Dan?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, it's probably one of the things I probably are guilty of neglecting a little bit. I spend a lot of time talking about smart health and sort of neglect the Winston's wish side of things. But we've had some training with them. I think it was at some point last year as well. And they talked about the different services they actually provide. And it is really, really important. They don't just sort of give advice to the kids, they actually look after the family as well. So if, for example, it's the grandparents that end up looking after the children if parents pass away and stuff, they'll also provide services to them as well. So yeah, really, really good service. And obviously we'll always point them in that direction as well when it comes to claim stage and stuff, to make sure that the family's getting the support it needs.
Brilliant. And I could just see that Glenn turned his camera on just in time to add a bit of value. So go on, what did you learn tonight, Glenn?
Hi, I like the fact that the enhanced covers all children up to 50 grand. And what the question I was going to ask is, say, obviously me and Chloe have got kids, and me and Chloe both had that, and I think I heard, is it you could both claim 50 grand each?
Yeah, so if you both had individual kick plans and you both included children's cover on your plans, you could claim for that one child. Yeah.
Mad, crazy.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
So yeah,
really good point. The children's cover, as you mentioned, you know, someone's got 10 kids, then your 10 kids are covered. You're not paying individually for the amount of children you have. So
yeah,
we were talking about how you equate clients. I mean, you don't have to market that you're a protection advisor. You can put yourself in circles of, do you know what I mean, toddler groups, for example, and say, you can give all, you know what I mean, make sure your children have the children's critical illness they should have. Because, you know, when, God forbid, something were to happen to a child, the first thing the parents would do is they'd be out of work and they'd be with that child. So financially, they're going to suffer. So as much as there's, you know, medical treatments and things you would want to ensure you pay for to get the top levels of, you know, medical experts we're talking about, there's also the time out you will need, and that can have a big impact on your family, on your financial commitments. So anyone with children, I'm sure they'll want to, you know, discuss that and ensure they've got that cover included as well.
I've actually got there's a few advisors that I actually deal with that attend, I don't know the right word for it, but these sort of massive baby conferences, and I'm sure it's people selling like different types of prams and stuff like that, but she'll go in there and she'll sell herself as the sort of protection guru and making sure that they cover their needs from that point of view as well, covering the children and all that type of stuff, looking after the family. So yeah, I've got advisors that do that. They have their own stands and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a really good way of generating business as well and getting yourself into those circles.
Brilliant. And the only person I've not picked on, I believe, is Barry there, because Barry's not had his camera on. Barry, you here tonight? He's having his tea, innit? How about you, Sharpen? We didn't pick on you, sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. Just in terms of the smart health, say with the services that you get, such as counselling, like mental health support, etc., is that unlimited throughout the policy? Could you know, use them services as many times as you want, or are they kind of limited to, you know, a certain number of times?
So initially it's up to 4 appointments, they say. So that's why I mentioned that the majority of people, depending on the sort of category that they're in, whether it's they're suffering quite severely with their mental health and stuff like that, they usually then come back to a level. So if you think about it, red's really bad, orange sort of bad, and then green, they're sort of good. Majority of people within 4 appointments that will go from red or orange into green. So over 75% of people that are in those sort of worser categories will end up back into the green, if that makes sense. I don't mean to sound to make it like a trivial thing, but generally speaking, within those 4 appointments, most people will end up back in a sort of relatively good space. Obviously, Smart Health will always do everything they can. So if someone needs more appointments than just the 4, they will definitely do that. And obviously, if there are other circumstances, it might be a few months down the line and they need it again, they would definitely be able to use it again. So they're not restricted. You can only use it once a year or once every 6 months. You can use it as much as you like. Just initially, they'd say it'll be 4 appointments, and then we'll assess from where what the status is at that point, and then go from there.
Brilliant, thank you.
And lastly, on that as well, Smart Health is provided by just one provider, so Teladoc. So all the different services are provided by one thing. So if you spoke and used the GP service initially, they could refer you through to the mental health support. They might refer you through to the sort of workout programs, nutritional guidance and stuff like that. So all the different services can be interlinking as well. And if, for example, you were to use Best Doctors for a second opinion, your case handler would be a UK-based GP. So that would be your contact. So yeah, all the different services are interlinking. So it's really good from that point of view. Your client doesn't have to jump from different provider to different provider.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. Obviously, I'm conscious of time because it's evening for you, Dan. A really good presentation. And, you know, the AIG proposition, as I mentioned, I love it. So hopefully everyone else has, picked up some, I'm sure they have picked up some great information there from you, and they'll continue to, go away, look at the intermediary site, continue to speak to yourself, and we'll get some business over to you, more importantly.
Yeah, that'd be good. I appreciate you having me on. As I said, I'm not going to be ignoring you for the next few weeks. I'm just not here. So I'll be sure to sort of catch up with you in a few weeks' time. And if you need anything from us in the meantime, my colleagues will be more than happy to support. But hopefully it was useful anyway.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dan. Cheers for your time, mate.
Nice one.
Enjoy your evening.
Cheers. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hopefully you enjoyed that, guys. The thing with AIG for me is that it can be a real simple proposition rather than complicating it about the actual ins and outs of the conditions. You can really just say that it's quality. You can just say it's market leading. People want the best when they're taking out anything, regards to whether it's a new iPhone, with regards to, whether it's, you'd rather have a Marks and Spencer's meal, wouldn't you, than a Tesco Finest, whatever it is. So when it comes to quality, and especially when it comes to peace of mind, it really is a matter of saying, AIG are up there, if not one of the best. And as you've heard tonight, there's a lot of USPs with them. And for me, the big one, the Smart Health they talked about, you can access the literature via the website. By means of, we talked to a few of you about actual intermediary websites. Let me just make sure you can see that. So the actual, everybody see that? Yeah, thumbs up. Great. So with regards to these intermediary sites, you've got the ability to use the tabs at the top to really find out everything about the products, get some more product knowledge, maybe some case studies. But if you come into the literature section and come down to the likes of, I don't know, product literature as an example, you can see all the policies that Dan's been referring to this evening. And within them, you'll be able to kind of look at the ins and outs and really find out, what they cover in your own time. And as I mentioned earlier, if you spend 10, 15 minutes just having a little read of, whether it's the instant life insurance you mentioned as the first product they've got, or whether it's the critical illness proposition and, how enhancing the plan differs it for you, it's really going to help. And what you'll find is there's a sales material tab here, and that'll really help with regards to what you can actually use for your customers. And I believe if I come down to the bottom, yeah, you can see there's a download button there. If I click on the Smart Health one, just check that. Yeah, you can see that. There's a Smart Health leaflet. Now, if you contact AIG, give them a quick phone call, or contact Dan, they'll fire some of these out in nice glossy format if you want some actually in your hand to give to your clients. But of course, what you can do, you can download this as a PDF, or you can screenshot it. You can either drop it into an email, you can attach it to your emails, fire it over to people and say, listen, have a little read of this. And as much as we can offer you a free will, we can offer you a free trust, you can also offer them a 24/7 online GP service, best doctors around the world, well-being services, mental health support, all at no cost when arranging a protection proposition. And of course, we need to put that last bit in. It is about arranging the protection, but this kind of service is one of the benefits you're going to get with many of the providers we use that give them something over and above that financial security. So I really encourage you to, use these provider sites to find out, reasons why you should take cover. What type of cover you can get under the individual, and, spend small amount of time learning. And what you'll learn from using these is real value to you. So, of course, when you're appointed, you'll receive logins for these providers as well. So you'll have access to advisor login, and you'll be able to come along and you'll be able to log in and actually put together a recommendation. Keep turning around because I'm looking at my phone to make sure you can see it. Now, I want to quickly show you this evening that putting a recommendation together with AIG is the simplest portal out there. You've got a personal new quote tab here at the top. And if we click that, it's going to bring us through to put in the client detail. So, Shannon, give me your favorite male celebrity. You're muted, sorry, say that again.
David Beckham.
David Beckham. Crush, or is that your favorite? Who said, oh God, then? I'm going to say he's 1980. Of course, he's male. Is he a smoker or a non-smoker? With regards to protection, of course, if you're a smoker, you're a much higher risk of critical illnesses and, of course, even passing away much earlier in life. So by means of cost of premium, you're going to see a significant uplift when it comes to smoker status. What we'll tend to find these days is a lot of people don't smoke. But if they do use anything like e-cigarettes, anything nicotine-based products, and they've used them within the last 12 months, they're going to be classed as a smoker. So take that into consideration when you're arranging cover for clients. But even when you've arranged cover for your clients, you want to look after them. If they do stop smoking and it goes beyond 12 months, there's potential to revise the covers, enhance the covers still with regards to the proposition improving, but also if you give them much more cover for the buck, or alternatively, save them on the monthly premiums because they've not got that smoker status increase. So we're not going to put him down as a footballer. I'm going to keep it really simple. I'm going to put him down as admin clerk, and I'm going to save my client. So we've added David Beckham in. We're going to add in another person. I'm going to do this as a joint recommendation. So we add in the second person. And Glenn, who's your favourite female crush?
It's got to be Angelina Jolie, innit? As Tomb Raider, I love it.
Angelina Jolie. Don't know if I spelt that right. And date of birth, we'll give her 21st of the 9th, 19. I'm sure she's a little bit older than David. So we'll go for that. Female, also a non-smoker. We'll keep it simple. And we'll keep her in as admin clerk as well for this purpose because it's slightly irrelevant. Clerk will do. So as you can see, you've got your clients in the portal at the top bar. And then what it's going to do, it's going to ask you to add in the covers you want below. So this is your ability. I'm just going to stop the share a minute while I'm talking to you. This is your ability to build a product for a client that's bespoke to them. So when you sit down with a customer or you speak to somebody about the protection, you'll tend to find that they've taken a lump sum amount. That's what everyone does. They have a jump online. Dan mentioned it before, money supermarket, or they've been into the bank or the building society, or they've had an advisor around who's a mortgage broker who doesn't really know much about protection, and they give them a nice lump sum amount, let's say £200,000. Now they've tailored that against either the mortgage debt or up to retirement, and they've got different debts in the background and they have income between them both. So the question is, if you've got £200,000 worth of income on a joint basis, what's that going to do for you? And the clients will say, well, give us some cash. And you'll say, well, what's the cash for? Well, it's to contribute towards, firstly, paying off my mortgage, maybe, and then giving me something over and above. And then we'll say, okay, well, what will it give you over and above? Well, we don't know. And why do they not know? Because they don't know when they're going to die. So you need to build a policy that's bespoke to the clients. So how we do that, and I'll just share that screen with you again, is we firstly establish, do they have a mortgage? If they have a mortgage, the first priority for me is protect against the mortgage debt. Because in the worst case scenario, that someone was to pass away, they don't want to be losing the home as much as losing the husband or wife. So for me, that's your priority. Get the debt paid off. So in this scenario, we're going to say that David and Angelina have both got a mortgage. And as you can see, there's a term assurance policy here that says decreasing, all level. Now, decreasing would be to tailor towards a repayment mortgage. So as the balance falls, the policy falls. Now, they don't mirror each other. The balance will never be the same, but it will decrease at a rate above the interest rate of the mortgage, meaning that you've always got enough and it'll fall to cover that mortgage debt. So if I cover a decreasing policy, let's say they've got a repayment mortgage, they've got one mortgage, so they need one policy. People sometimes arrange single policies for each client to protect a mortgage debt. Well, if one of the policies paid out, the remaining client would still be paying for a policy to protect a mortgage that wouldn't be there. Also, compliance at Primus now have really clamped down on single policies to protect mortgages. So there's a rare scenario where you'll do that. But for me, to make things easier, if you have a joint mortgage, always cover it with a joint policy. We're going to pick both clients. Now, you can either put the term in years and months, or you can put the age. Well, because we're protecting a mortgage debt, we're going to do it against the term of the mortgage. So, for example, 23 years. Could be months, we'll say none. And then the interest rate here is regarding what I just said. If someone's on a mortgage of 1%, 2%, 3%, as long as the interest rate on the policy is higher than their interest rate, they'll always be in credit. So 6% is what I tend to put. And they've got a mortgage, let's keep it simple, of 250,000. There you go. Now you can include things like waiver of premium, which is an insurance within the insurance to ensure that the policy is paid if they're ever out of work for, say, accidents or sickness. And that tends to kick in after about 13 weeks. So at the moment, I'm not going to confuse the matter. I'm just going to say, quote on that, and it will give me a premium to protect their mortgage debt on a joint basis, which is 28.67 for £250,000 worth of cover on a decreasing basis. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to save my change. And as you can see, what's happened here is it's now got the clients at the top and it's saying they have a joint policy underneath. And there's a premium individually at 28.67. And the total premium, of course, because there's one single policy, is 28.67. Now, if we come down, access to the illustration on the bottom right-hand side, and there's access to the actual key features of the product that we're recommending for your customer. So they're the two documents that you present to your client. Now, I'm going to ask Lizzie this because I said it to her earlier. Lizzie, why is that policy not good enough?
Because if it pays off the mortgage, but what happens outside of that?
Absolutely. Do you know the slogan?
When you told me about the bucket.
No, wait a second. I've got it on the board behind me. Because in my birthday on Monday, they all printed off some nice printouts. Let me see if I can just stop the show. Can everybody see this? Sorry, it's the hologram, isn't it? I'll tell you what, bear me 1 minute. It's worth showing you. There you go. This is what they printed out for me. There we go. You can't eat bricks. I think I say it at least once a day. So jumping back to the policy, it's a great policy, but what it's doing half the job. It's protecting the mortgage, the home, sorry, the debts, but you can't eat bricks. So in the event of, God forbid, Angelina passing away, David will have a policy payout, clear the mortgage, and be living in a mortgage-free home, but he'd be in a position where he'd be grieving, and Angelina's no longer around, so her income is no longer around. So financially, as much as the mortgage free, they're still going to suffer. So what we need to do, we now need to add in over and above the mortgage amount, some additional policies. And these are going to be tailored to the individuals, David and Angelina. So I'll show you how that works. We drop down the tabs again, but this time we're not going to put it as decreasing because it's nothing to do with a mortgage. Decreasing will only ever be to cover a repayment mortgage. Why would you protect your income and have it falling? It wouldn't make sense. So it has to be a level or increasing plan, a lump sum amount guaranteed throughout the term you take it. So I'm going to add that product on and it'll ask me for the criteria. But this time we're going to do it specifically to the individual because it's not a joint mortgage we're protecting, it's the individual. So we need an individual plan. We're now not talking about the mortgage term, we're talking about the individual's income. So the term of the policy now needs to be until his retirement age. It has to be to his retirement age because up until his retirement age, if he's not here and not working, the income's going to stop. But once he retires, he's retiring for a reason that he's financially stable. So there's no longer a reason to have protection. So we're going to say that he's going to retire at 68. I'm going to say that he earns £50,000 a year. So we're going to give him 2 years worth of salary. And that's just me saying 2 years. You could give him a year's worth, 6 months worth, 4 times, 5 times salary, 10 times salary. What really justifies the amount of cover you would give over and above the mortgage is the budget that the client wants to pay by means of meeting the need. But of course, you want to make sure the cover's enough. Now, we talked about waiver before. That's the insurance within the insurance to ensure it's paid if you can't work, the premium. And then there's a tab here saying increasing cover. The increasing cover, this is important, is regards to the sum of 100,000. Now, if you think about it, when you used to go to the shop when you were 10 years old, you used to go and buy a packet of crisps. It'd cost you 15p or it'd cost you 20p. Nowadays, you can go in the shop and it'll cost you 70, 80, 90p. With value of inflation increasing, the cost of living becomes more expensive. So increasing cover means in reference to inflation, the sum assured will increase in line with indexation on the retail price index year in, year out. So that 100,000 next year might become 102,000 as an example. And the premium will slightly increase in a matter of maybe pence for the client. Now I say always include that because once you've included it, you've got the option every year to take the additional. Thing to note on that is if you don't take the increase in outset, you can add it at a later date. And if you do add it, they've got the option after 12 months to retain it and take the cover or remove the indexation. You also receive more commission from the provider for indexation as well. So we're going to add that in. And we're going to do the same for the missus as well, because protecting the mortgage and over and above is one thing. But of course, Angelina is also working. So we're going to do her to 68. And we're going to say she earns, I don't know, 60,000 a year. So we'll give her 120,000. And I'm sure she earns more than that. Again, we'll index it, increase it, save that. Now, this policy is at 51.89, and they've got a life insurance plan now that covers a number of angles. It protects the mortgage debt, but it gives them something over and above. So in the event of David passing away, Angelina now has a mortgage-free home with the joint plan, and she has £100,000 in the bank account. And vice versa, if David was to pass, if Angelina was to pass away, David would live in a mortgage-free home, clear the mortgage off with this plan. And the additional funds over and above will be the account for the things like the lifestyle, the commitments, and of course, the children's lifestyle as well. Of course, if they've got dependents. So now you've done a scenario, and that's called a multi-benefit plan. Your illustration here will now reflect that quote. And I'll see if I can just quickly share that with you. Not sure if I can. No, I can't. It's not opening because I'm on a Mac. But what you're doing there, you're building a multi-plan. So what I'm going to do with you now, of course, we can only get that much in this evening. We're going to work on that, and we're going to give you the ability to do numerous quotes yourself. So when you come into the office, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to do Zooms with me and have access, and we can quote that, and we can add other elements in, such as critical illness, income protection. So the policy does more and more and more. But as Dan mentioned earlier, 51.89. If you was to ask a client, let's say we asked David and Angelina at the start, where's your budget? For me, they'd turn around and say maybe £30. That gives me the inability to go and present and meet their need of what they need. So rather than asking for budget, for me, it's better to go back and say, this is your recommendation. This is why it's good for you. It protects your mortgage, protects over and above. You also get access to the smart health services. And of course, you can add in critical illness as well with regards to additional covers. So again, we'll come on to it another time with regards to critical illness. What I just want to do is just do a quick news share with you. I want to come back to the presentation. And we've talked about AIG. You've seen Solution Builder on the initial session we did when Joanne was on. Solution Builder, of course, is the portal through our pipeline where you can do a recommendation, as we've just done on AIG, but within the portal that has all the providers in one. And then you can take yourself to AIG and it'll drag all that information in to create the quote that you've just seen, rather than duplicating your works. So hopefully that made sense for you. You can see how a multi-plan works. I just want to come on to regards to, you know, referrals, your appointments that have been taking place for all the new advisors who've come on in 2022. Firstly, Glenn, well done, mate. You took over Rachel, which I was sat with Rachel earlier today, and she went, "Oh, Glenn, he's in front of me now." So it sounds like we've got a bit of competition going on there, which, you know, I love. I can see you laughing. And of course, with regards to the appointments that's now coming from these, you'll start to see that they'll, you know, start to move forward. And as soon as they do, they'll materialize into business. Good news is that I know Rachel's had one that's moved to business, which will be added in for next week's session. So well done on that front, and they'll continue to build, and hopefully, and they'll be able to learn from that experience as well. So last week we did a quiz. We did a quiz on, you know, provider products information from the Facebook group. I'm aware that about 3 of you out of the new advisor team are yet to send me your answers. Come on, let's think of climate control. Let's plant some more trees. But no, firstly, thank you to those of you that did come back to me. I can tell you went away, you researched the Facebook groups, you found the answers, and we, as a collectively, as a team, we managed to plant 66 trees, which, you know, it's a great achievement. So, you know, thank you for your efforts on that. If you're rusty in any area and you were thinking, I mean, you weren't quite sure what Smart Health is, global treatment is, Winston's Wishes, what the cost of global treatment is, £3 a month, you know what I mean, all these different things, who upgrades their policies automatically, you know, that with Guardian, there's many different answers there. If you need to do more research on it, I encourage you, keep researching, keep reading up about it, because this is the stuff and that you need to know. That's the reason we're giving you the questions on that front. And then finally, thank you for your time this week. It's been a great session with Dan. As I say, hopefully you like the AIG proposition. Go away and have a look at it yourself in more detail. Of course, next week we've got Vitality. It is something different. We've got Hina from Vitality. And I believe Kaylee's taking the session, not me, which she'll probably be happy to have a different voice on next week. I might pop up at the start or the end just to annoy you. But as you can see, we've also got Debbie coming from British Friendly. And then we've got 2 new sessions booked in. We've actually brought this in-house to give you some value by means of, you know, working practice, people who are doing it day to day. We've got Kate, who's going to do a mortgage session with you all. Now, for those of you who aren't CMAP qualified and aren't moving through to mortgage advisor status, you know, don't think this isn't for you. It is for you. It's for you to see, because when you sit down with a client protecting mortgages and they start asking you questions on mortgages, of course, you can't give advice not being an advisor, but you still need to know your stuff. You still need to understand the industry and the way we quote and the proposition Fortune Financial has, because you've got a team around you that can help your clients. And of course, you're going to come through. You're going to progress to mortgage advice for the majority of you as well. So use the value you'll get from these sessions on mortgages to enhance your knowledge and being able to see the 27 tech system, which is the Primus system we quote on. And of course, talk about the different styles of mortgages as well. Kade's going to come and do that, and he's going to give you some great information. Kade's a great teacher, really humble guy, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of value, as I say. And then, of course, at the end of March, the 24th, we've got our superstar, Kaylee, who fires in great numbers, week to week, month to month on protection. Very experienced now. I know she's mentoring a number of you. She's going to come and do a session on protection and more specific on trusts and wills. Now, we're not going to go too in depth on wills in that session. We'll be doing a separate session for yourselves to be able to offer wills to your clients. For me, trusts and wills are both an amazing tool to generate new clients. Now, I know we started the session talking about generating clients. For me, you need to implement wills into your advice process once you become non-competent and cast status, because it gets you talking about all different areas, from all their assets, their estates, the liabilities, and of course that leads to questions around the protection, and of course mortgage renewal dates, pension values if you want to refer them out to the IFAs we work with, and other areas as well. So you'll get great value from Kaylee, and as I say, the trusts that come on the back of arranging life insurance, if you're not writing your policies in trust, firstly, primates are going to be on your back because you're not doing a proper job, as we always say. What a trust does for your client, it prevents inheritance tax liabilities, or should I say mitigates liabilities, because there can always sometimes be caveats with that. But inheritance tax is currently taxed at 40%. If you've got a policy you're arranging for a client, let's say David Beckham as an example, because we just used it, and he's got £100,000 worth of cover, without a trust, it's likely that 60,000 is going to the kids or Angelina and 40,000 going to the taxman, because there's no trust against it. What a trust will do, it'll ring fence the monies, and it'll make sure 100% of the proceeds get to the beneficiaries, the person inheriting the funds. So again, Kaylee's going to go into detail on that. And of course, if you've got any questions with regards to the sessions coming up, you know where I am. We're going to end the session now this evening. You see, it's just at 8 o'clock. So thank you for your time. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If anyone's got any questions, of course, as you always say, stay on the chat, and I'll stop the show now and I'll get them answered for you. But rest of you, of course, enjoy your evening, and we'll speak to you soon. Signing off.